We've got several different stories from several different media outlets, you guys. It's time for another episode of the World Newsround where I cover various stories from outside the United Kingdom. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of the World's Newsround, where I cover various different stories from outside the UK. And the date and time for this is the 25th of June 2024 at 8:28 a.m. UK time. And we start here with a piece from the New York Times with the headline that Assange has agreed to plead guilty in exchange for release, ending the standoff with the US. The bar in last minute snags the deal, which would bring an end to a prolonged battle that began after WikiLeaks found that it became an alternatively celebrated and revived for revealing state secrets in 2010. So it looks like this is ordeal is going to finally come to an end, but it looks like here that it was never going to be a case that he would be able to. He won't need to go to the US, which is what's in this deal. I've read a little bit already in this, and it seems that he's not going to be going back to his homeland, but he is going to serve the time for this. From the looks of this, I'm really. Part of me is happy that this has come to an end, but a part of me is also really sad that he still has to do time for this when he's already spent 14 years of his life already before being found, before pleading guilty. I mean, it's like for simply doing his job, which is journalism, exposing the US government for what they were doing, and rightfully so. I think it was rightfully so at that time. Exposed the US, and it damaged their reputation because they were doing things that they should not have been doing, and they know it. They know what they were doing, and they wanted to punish Assange to set an example that other journalists can't go past that line. They didn't want journalists doing that, and I really do feel for him. He's been through a lot. And me personally, I think he should just be allowed to remain in exile somewhere in his homeland in Australia, somewhere where he can't be bothered or talked to or whatever. But no, apparently he still has to serve some kind of prison sentence. So let's read into this, you guys. So Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, agreed to plead guilty on Monday to a single felony count of illegally obtaining and disclosing national security material in exchange for his release from a British prison, ending his long and bitter standoff with the United States. Mr. Assange, 52, was granted his request to appear before a federal judge at one of the more remote outposts of the federal judiciary, the courthouse in Saipan, the capital of the Northern Margarita Islands, according to a brief court filing made public late Monday. And he's expected to be sentenced to about 5 years. The equivalent of that time is already served in prison. Served in Britain, according to a law enforcement official familiar with the terms of the agreement. I see. So he won't need to. So he's already, the equivalent of the time. Yeah, for me, it's like why is he serving more time when he's already been locked up for 14 years? For quite a fitting time already. It was a fitting final twist in the case against Mr. Assange, who dodgingly opposed extradition to the US mainland. The islands are a United States Commonwealth in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and are much closer to Mr. Assange's native Australia, where he is a citizen, than counts the continental United States or Hawaii. Shortly after the deal was disclosed, WikiLeaks has said that Mr. Assange had left London. Mr. Assange is scheduled to appear in Saipan at 9 a.m. local time on Wednesday, and is expected to fly back to Australia at the conclusion of the proceedings. Matthew J. Mackenzie, an official in the Justice Department Counter-Terrorism Division, wrote in a letter to the judge in the case. So he is going to fly back to Australia after this. Interesting. Early on Tuesday morning, his wife Stella Assange posted a video of her husband signing paperwork and boarding the plane on Monday. Barring last-minute snags, the deal would bring an end to a prolonged battle that began after Mr. Assange became alternately celebrated and revived after revealing state secrets in 2010. Those include materials about American military activity in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as confidential cable shared among diplomats. During the 2016 campaign, WikiLeaks released thousands of emails stolen from Democratic national committees, leading to relevance that embarrassed the party and Hillary Clinton's campaign. In 2019, a federal grand jury indicated Mr. Hassan on 18 counts related to WikiLeaks discrimination on a broad array of national security documents. Those include a trove of material sent to the organization by Chelsea Manning, a former US Army intelligence analyst who handed over information about military planning and operations nearly a decade earlier. If convicted, Mr. Hassan could face a maximum of 170 years in a federal prison. Until Monday evening, Mr. Hassan had been held in Belmarsh, one of Britain's highest security prisons in southeast London. Mr. Hassan was confined to his cell for 23 hours a day, eating his meal off a tray alone, surrounded by 232 books, and allowed only 1 hour a day of exercise in the prison yard, according to an account published by The Nation this year. Like, is that not punishment enough for him? Like, clearly not for some people. When asked about his pallor, Mr. Hassan, who has not been able to walk outside unsupervised for more than a decade, jokes that they call it a prison pal. His release was not unexpected. Earlier this year, Prime Minister Anti-LGBTQ of Australia suggested that the US prosecutors needed to conclude the case, and President Biden signalled that he was open to a rapid solution. Top officials at the Justice Department accepted an agreement with no additional prison time because Mr. Hassan had already served longer than most people in charge with similar offences. And in this case, over 5 years in prison in Britain. Yeah, he has served more than enough time. Soon after the charges were unsealed in 2019, the London Metropolitan Police entered Ecuador's embassy where Mr. Hassan had sought sanctuary years earlier to avoid extradition to Sweden, where he faces accusations of sexual assault. He has been held in custody ever since, as his legal team has fought the Justice Department efforts to extradite him. After weeks of negotiation, Mr. Hassan has pleaded guilty to one of the charges of the indictment, conspiracy to disseminate the National Defence Information, where he carries a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. Mr. Hassani's supporters have long argued that his efforts to obtain and publicly release sensitive national security information was in the public interest and deserves some First Amendment protections and afforders to investigate journalists. Yeah. Many of Mr. Hassan's supporters renewed those concerns even as they expressed relief that he would be released. The United States has now, for the first time in more than 100 years of its Espionage Act, obtained an Espionage Act conviction for Basic Journalists Act, said David Green, director of the Electronic Frontier Founder Civil Libraries, a non-profit focused on First Amendment issues. These charges should never have been brought, he said. Yeah. This is 100% true. He should never had faced this. It's absolutely outrageous what the suffering that he has gone through. In 2021, a coalition of civil liberties and human rights groups urged the Biden administration to drop its efforts to extradite him from Britain and prosecute him, calling the case a grave threat to press freedom. Much of the conduct he is accused of what journalists engage in routinely, the group contended. News organizations frequently and necessarily publish classified information in order to inform the public of matters of profound public significance. But US officials argued that Mr. Hassan's actions went far beyond news gathering, putting at risk to national security. Material flourished by Ms. Manning's prosecutors claim endangered the lives of service members and Iraqis who work with the military and made it harder for their country to counter external threats. You can make that argument, but based on that evidence, you were doing things that you should not have been doing, America, and you know it. You know what you were doing was wrong. Mr. Hassan has remained in Belmarsh and he has repeatedly challenged the order of his removal. Last month, Mr. Hassan won a bid to appeal the extradition order. Afterwards, Mr. Hassan, who married Mrs. Hassan, who married Mr. Hassan after joining his legal team fighting extradition efforts to Sweden, told supporters gathering outside central London that the court case should be abandoned. The Biden administration should distance itself from this shameful prosecution, said Mr. Hassan, who secretly began a relationship with Mr. Hassan when he was living in the Ecuadorian embassy. The pair have 2 young sons. Mr. Hassan has rarely been seen in public as this case has wound its way through the court, citing health issues. In 2021, Mr. Hassan had a small stroke while in prison. He did not tender hearing in May because of undisclosed health reasons. Mrs. Hassan, in another video posted on social media early Tuesday, which was recorded outside of Belmarsh Prison last week, said the development had been occurring very quickly. This period of our lives, I am confident now, has come to an end, as she said. She added, what starts now with Julian's freedom is a new chapter. I'm generally curious if he's going to be able to speak, talk about this more, talk about what's happened in his ordeal. I think I don't know if he's going to be able to write a book, or maybe he has been writing a book within prison. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not. I look back on this. I mean, obviously, I mean, I just want to know that he you know, by the time at the time of this recording, obviously he's obviously going to the island to have his case and put through by a US court, and then to Australia. Cross fingers. I really am crossing fingers. This that he gets back in Australia. I really do. And I hope and I mean this. I really hope he gets a hero's welcome. I hope he gets a hero's welcome because he was doing his job. He was doing his job, and he was exposed. He exposed damning evidence of what the US were doing in Iraq. And it was fundamentally facts. The fundamental facts were there for the world to see what they were doing. And it makes you wonder, because of the punishment, it makes you wonder just what else have the US been doing that we don't know about behind closed doors. It raises so many more questions. It really does. When you look back on that. And since what happened to Assange has happened, I think a lot of journalists are very careful not to upset. While there are some very good journalists out there, I think many are scared of upsetting the cart, shall we say, of upsetting the US government. I think many are very scared about that because of what could happen to them. Because it's not that hard for governments to make stories up on journalists and throw them behind bars and whatnot. And I feel like Hassan has been a victim here of simply doing his job. And I feel for him. I feel for his wife. I feel for his family. And I just hope that he can just live the rest of his life in peace, not be disturbed, and just have some time with his children. That's kind of what I would want from him. I would like to hear from him again before his time. How old is he now? 52. Yeah, I would like to hear from him again, but I don't think we will. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm just glad that this is over for him, because it's not right what he has gone through, guys. So this next one I got for you guys is from Al Jazeera. It's for an update. Obviously, this is a brutal one to read, but this is really important, guys. It's from Gaza. So over 20,000 children have been buried, trapped, detained, or lost amid the Gaza war, according to a report. Huge numbers are trapped beneath rubble, buried in unmarked graves, and detained by Israel says Save the Children. Now, 20,000 children. We know that more than 12,000 plus women and children have died as a result of died within the Gaza Strip. We know that. But this it is a report. So, but I would say obviously take it a little bit with a pinch of salt, because that does sound like a huge amount. Any child that dies, any child that's suffering, any child that's in any kind of this thing, is a huge tragedy on our humanity. It's a huge tragedy, and it's one that not really people talk about. And my heart goes out to all the children who are suffering as a result of this. And I wish more was being done. I really do, guys. But I think this is really important to highlight. So nearly 21,000 children are missing in Gaza, the British aid group Save the Children has claimed. In a report published on Monday, the group said that thousands of missing Palestinian children are believed to be trapped beneath rubble, buried in unmarked graves, harmed beyond recognition by explosives, detained by Israeli forces, or lost in the chaos of the conflict. It is nearly impossible to collect and verify information under the current conditions in Gaza, the group said, but at least 17,000 children are believed to be unaccompanied and separated, and approximately 4,000 children are likely to be missing under the rubble, with an unknown number also in mass graves. Yeah, up to 21,000, they say. Israel has killed more than 14,000 children in Gaza since October the 7th, while others are suffering from serious malnutrition and do not even have the energy to cry, the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, said in a report earlier this year. I don't know what to say about that. Since October, Gaza has faced relentless violence, which has killed over 37,000 people, including thousands of children. There follows an attack in Israel by Palestinian armed groups that killed over 1,000 people, including at least 33 children. The Save the Children report reads. It also notes that about 250 Palestinian children are also missing in the occupied West Bank as of June the 9th. 250 Palestinian children have gone missing in the West Bank. Jeremy Stoner, Save the Children Regional Director in the Middle East, has called for an independent investigation into the situation surrounding Gaza's missing children and for accountability. Says families are tortured by the uncertainty of whereabouts of their loved ones. No parent should have to dig through rubble or mass graves to find their child body. No child should be alone, unprotected, and in a war zone. No child should be detained or held hostage, he added. Kazim Quisma, the General Director of the Child's Rights Organisation Defence for Children's International Palestine, told Al Jazeera that the impact that they've witnessed in the conflict in Gaza is at a level previously unseen, even during the Second World War. It is a war against children. Children in Gaza are the big cost of the Israeli genocide in Gaza, Quisma said. International criticism has mounted amid the growing death toll in the war, as well as the deteriorating humanitarian crisis. However, on Sunday, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated that he would not agree to any deal that stipulated an end to Israel's war on Gaza. Kids. Talking about kids here, guys. We're not talking about adults here. We're talking about kids. Up to 20,000 kids. Over 20,000 kids. Probably a good chunk of them are probably dead. And as it said in the report there, 13,000 children. You don't need to take this report's word for it. It's really not that hard to find footage online to see some of the attacks that is the IDF are putting in certain areas, and see the blood and the damage that children's bodies are going through. It's really not that hard to see it. Some of those images, you can't get out of your mind. I don't look at it every day, obviously, for my own personal mental health. But I do obviously look at them on Wednesday, look at what's happening in Gaza on Wednesday, and I do see those footages. And it does make me want to cry, but make me want to scream and shout, make me want to be angry, because I just feel like that there are so many innocents suffering as a result of what's happening here, because of what Hamas did, because of how Israel have responded. And so many innocents are suffering as a result. There's so many innocent people. It's really heartbreaking, guys. It really, really is. And the sooner a ceasefire comes, the better. But I don't know when that's going to come, guys. I'll also say as well, do check out my Rumble channel as well. The link is in the description, where I'm doing daily news, Monday to Friday. I do a daily video within the update of the war in Gaza. Excuse me. Apologies. That I do content on there as well. So if you want more information, do check that out, guys. So the next article I got for you guys is from CNN, going away from the Middle East all the way over to Asia. So this is something I've covered in some short videos. I don't know if I've covered this on Rumble, but I'm pretty sure we talked about this on the Snowflake Corner as well. And I think this speaks quite a lot about the tension between North and South Korea. So South Korean military says 350 waste balloons detected from North Korea overnight as tensions continue to flare. So South Korea have been getting really, shall we say, upset, because North Korea have been sending these waste balloons over on the other side. It's really a case, they really are provoking it and provoking each other at this point. And nobody wants a Korean war kicking off, but I feel like I'm worried that it's going to happen within my lifetime because of how much tension that keeps happening here. There's always someone's doing something to annoy each other. I know that South Korea have sent over balloons blasting music or whatnot on over North Korea and disrupting their little occupation of things. like I feel like there's a, there's the bubble here, and this bubble is getting bigger and bigger, and when that bubble pops, there's going to be a war here, and I'm not looking forward to this at all. This is going to be really bad. I don't know if the US are still gonna get involved militarily. I don't know if North Korea has going to use. I don't know if North Korea are going to use nuclear weapons or whatnot. But this is incredibly concerning because the tension has been there for a long time. It really, really has between the two. So this is a picture apparently. So this is a balloon that has been sent by believed to have been sent by North Korea, carrying various objects, including what appears to be trash and excrement, as seen over a rice field in Chongwon, South Korea. Yeah, so they're sending obviously all that's sending that. So South Korea spotted another 350 North Korean balloons presumed to be carrying waste on Monday, reigniting the tit-for-tat exchange as tensions on the Korean peninsula continue to heighten. South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said a suspected balloon was seen flying in northern Gyeongsang province, which borders Seoul, around 9 p.m. local time. About 100 of the balloons fell inside South Korean region. Most were found in the North Gyeongsang province in capital Seoul, with no hazardous substance found so far, it said. Its metropolitan governor sent out a push notification alerting the city that a North Korean balloon had entered the skies over Seoul, adding that civilians should refrain from touching down balloons and reporting any signs to the authorities. The South Korean military has warned it could restart loudspeaker propaganda broadcasts at the border, which it has paused in the last few years, adding whether Seoul resumed the loudspeakers is up to North Korea's actions. Our military is ready to immediately start the anti-North Korean propaganda broadcast and will operate with flexibility according to a strategic and operational situation, said the Joint Chiefs of Staff on Tuesday. North Korea sent over 1,000 balloons towards the south since May. Since May, guys. We're not even in July yet. Which is called for reprisals for South Korean activists flying leaflets that contain materials critical of the regime of its leader Kim Jong-un. Last Thursday, a South Korean advocacy group flew 20 large balloons carrying thousands of anti-North Korean propaganda leaflets and UBS sticks with South Korean entertainment towards North Korea. A day later on Friday, Kim Yong-jong, a powerful sister of North Korea, warned of trouble ahead. When you do something that you are clearly warned not to do, it's only natural that you'll find yourself dealing with something that you didn't have to, she said. A South Korean analysis of North Korea's balloons have been sent between late May and early June, detecting parasites on the balloon soil, which may have originated from human feces, the ministry said, pointing to human genes found in the soil. The analysis found roundworms, whipworms, and larvae currently, along with other waste such as cloth and wallpaper, the ministry said, adding there is no risk of contamination or infectious disease from the analysed soil. The balloons also carried damaged clothes from South Korean brands, signalling hostility towards South Korea goods, as well as clothes with intimidations of Disney characters, according to the ministry. The latest balloon salvo comes as tension on the Korean peninsula heightened, and inter-Korean diplomacy remains at an impasse. Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a defense agreement with North Korea last week as the talks on the denuclearization efforts have stalled. And Kim has vowed to expand his nuclear arsenal and threatened to use it against the South. Yeah, he has said that on numerous occasions. In the meantime, a US Navy aircraft carrier arrived in South Korea over the weekend ahead of a transitional exercise with South Korea and Japan in its waters near the peninsula. It is the latest in a series of US military moves aimed to affirm Washington's ironclad commitment to its treaty ally in South Korea. The US and South Korea officials signed a new memorandum of understanding on diplomatic intelligence sharing and analysis on Monday, according to South Korea's foreign ministry. Japanese, South Korean, and US officials also held a trilateral call where they issued a joint statement calling for deepening security cooperation between Russia and North Korea, a matter of grave concern, and those seeking to maintain peace on the Korean peninsula. The United States, RK, and Japan condemned the strongest possible terms of deepening military cooperation between the DPRK and Russia, including continued armed transfers from the DPRK to Russia that prolongs the suffering of the Ukrainian people, violates multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions, and threatens stability in the both Northeast Asia and Europe, the statement read. Yeah, there's obviously the condemnation of that as well. And we know that Putin obviously visited Pyongyang, I think it was last week or the week before as well. So that was obviously taking place as well. He was also in Vietnam as well, because he had quite a friendly relationship there as well. I will say, obviously, that the what's been happening, obviously, with this. This is just kind of like tit for tat. When someone does something, then they hit back, and then they come back, and yeah, it does sound like I think I'm going to be honest. At the time of this recording, I'm going to say that South Korea are kind of being told to try not to retaliate, to try not to escalate things any more than needed to. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think that's what the US are probably saying to them behind closed doors, saying really try not to provoke them, because obviously it's not helping the situation in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, this situation is continuing, and we will try to keep up with it as much as I possibly can for you guys as well. But we'll see how things continue to develop over time. So, guys, we're going to take a little break from World Newsround. Normally, what I normally do for those who are new to the program, I normally just put in a funny video to kind of break the ice a little bit, because there's obviously a lot of very serious news that's taken place. So we got quite a few. I got at least 3 more stories to go through as well. And we'll also, if we get time, we'll have a look at the deep state map of the Ukraine war as well, because I think that's really, really important as well. So I hope you guys enjoy this funny video I've got for you guys. It's from Foil and Arms' YouTube channel. And the title of the video is called Every Hotel Ever. Hope you guys enjoy.
Afraid we've no room under that name.
I mean, I booked this months ago.
I'm sorry.
Would you have anything available now?
Yes, we have a 2-bed available for only €600.
600?
Taylor Swift is playing tonight.
Is she playing in the hotel? So I don't have a choice, do I? We'll take it.
Okay, will I book you in for breakfast?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll add that to your bill.
It's not included. For €600.
Taylor Swift is playing tonight.
What's that noise?
Yes, please excuse our appearance at the moment. We're going through some necessary renovation works.
Well, when is it finishing up?
Oh, spring.
Spring? You didn't mention that on the website.
No, we felt if we put it on the website that less people would book.
Yeah.
Hello again.
There's only 1 bed in that room.
Yes.
But we paid for a 2-bed.
Yes.
So why is there only 1 bed?
It's a double bed.
But it's just 1 bed.
It's a 2-bedroom.
But it isn't 2 beds.
It sleeps 2.
In the same bed?
Yes.
So it's a 1-bedroom?
It's a 2-bedroom. Is there anything else I can help you with, sir? Oh, just so you're aware, we will be testing our fire alarm at 7,
right.
10, 11, and 2:30. Hello again, sir.
The shower?
Yes.
It's either boiling or it's freezing.
Sorry, sir.
I'm just hoping that there's maybe an in-between temperature, that I won't suffer thermal shock with. For €600. Sorry, where's the pool?
Oh, I think the pool is closed at the moment.
Oh, okay. When's it going to reopen?
Oh, it should be fully operational spring.
Didn't mention that on the website.
No, we felt if we mentioned it in the website,
Yeah.
that less people would.
I can't get on the internet.
Oh, the password is your name and your room number.
I've tried that. Look, I have a conference call in 20 minutes.
Well, if you're having problems with the Wi-Fi, you can use our business centre.
Okay, where's that?
Right here.
€600.
Yeah. Taylor Swift. Everything okay, sir?
The air conditioner.
Yes, sir.
It's incredibly noisy. Then it's quiet. Then it's noisy. Then it's quiet again. It's impossible to sleep. All noisy, fine. All quiet, fine.
There's a switch
I
by
can't
the wall.
turn it off. The room is an oven. If I turn it off, it's too hot to sleep.
You could open a window.
I tried. They only open this much.
That's for your safety, sir.
I'm beginning to see why. What is that noise?
Yes. The hotel bar becomes a nightclub after 12 o'clock.
Does it?
Yes.
I have a meeting very early in the morning.
Would you like me to set you a wake-up call?
No, that won't be necessary. I won't be sleeping.
Oh, hello, sir.
The ice machine outside my door.
Yes, sir.
Turn it off!
Good morning, sir.
Sorry, where's the breakfast?
It's just through these doors and into the dining room.
Is it? Because I was just in there and there's nothing left. Oh. You said breakfast finished at 10.
Yes, it does.
If there's no food left at 9:30, then breakfast finishes before 9:30.
Would you like to make a complaint?
Yes, I certainly would like to make a complaint. This has been the most... And I've got a blank space and I will write your name.
Oh, That's what it's like to be in one of the worst hotels in the world when everything is just not going your way. Anyone who ever, I've never had that experience, and I really hope that somebody listening to this has not had that experience in all seriousness. It's always had, it could have a laugh and a joke about it, but if you're somebody who's actually in that situation, that's pretty brutal, I will say. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel for anyone who has to go through that. That is for sure, guys. Guys, if while you're here as well, before I just go to the next article, if you can, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe. It really does help support the channel. Just doing any of those things really does help support the support me and supports this the video here. So thanks for everyone who's done that. Really, really appreciate it. So the next one I've got for you guys is from Middle Eastern Eye. The headline here is that the UK have been accused of trying to suppress criticism of the United Arab Emirates' role in Sudan war. So London reportedly have told African diplomats to refrain from condemning Abu Adi, which has long been accused of aiding the RSF paramilitary groups. So while Britain is kind of, this has been a concern. So we are aware that that Britain is trying to be quiet about while they are condemning obviously what's happening in Sudan, but they're trying not to kind of point fingers at certain countries, and I'm trying to like, why are we not talking about this? This is very concerning, to say the least. It's very infuriating as well, because Sudan is in a huge crisis. Lots of people are displaced, lots of people's lives and homes are destroyed. Many people have suffered immense as a result of what's happening there. Nowhere near getting enough news talk whatsoever from the world. And this here, and I don't know how true the UAE's role is in supporting the RSF. But this is not the first time we've heard this. They have denied this. I believe at the last time we talked about this, the United Arab Emirates had denied that they were supplying the RSF. They had denied that. I have to stress that. I'm assuming they're going to say that in this article piece. But yeah, this obviously the UK kind of being quiet about this is not helping either. So UK officials tried to suppress criticism of the United Arab Emirates' alleged role in the war in Sudan, according to sources cited by The Guardian, reported on Monday. The UAE has been accused of supporting the Rapid Support Forces, the paramilitary group which has been at war with Sudan's armed forces since the hostilities broke out in April last year. Abu Dhabi denies the accusation. The ME has reported on the network of supply lines that exist to funnel arms and other goods from the UAE to the RSF via allied groups and governments in Libya, Chad, and the Central African Republic. The Young Diamond, a legal counsel at the Royal World Centre for Human Rights, told The Guardian that informal talks were held in Ethiopia, exploring possible legal action against the UAE for its role in Sudan. During the discussions, Diamond was told by sources that the UK was actively disillusioning African diplomats from criticising Abu Dhabi. They told me that the UK was discouraging state funds from criticising the UAE, Diamond said. We were looking to build support for a civilian protection mechanism in Darfur and the moves to hold the UAE accountable in the International Court of Justice or elsewhere in the region. The UK Foreign Office denied the claims. The spokesperson said these accusations are categorically untrue. The UK is using diplomatic influence to support efforts for a durable peace. For several weeks, the RSF and the surrounding El Fashir, the state capital of North Darfur, leaving no clear escape routes for civilians. It is the only city in western Sudan's Darfur region in the hands of the Sudan's army. Commentators have warned that El Fashir could become a kill box in the event of a major attack on the city by the RSF. A report released in mid-April by the Royal World Centre concluded that a genocide was taking place against non-Arab groups in Darfur at the hands of the RSF and the allied militias. It stated that there was clear and convincing evidence that Sudan, the UAE, Libya, Chad, the Central African Republic, and Russia, via the actions of the Wagner Group, were complicit in the genocide. The UAE has repeatedly denied providing military support to the RSF, and last week clashed with Khartoum at the United Nations Security Council. Yeah, people are still calling them out on it, and they're saying we've not sent anything. They're still saying they've not sent anything, but they're saying that there are links there. El Hafiz Idris Mohammed, Sudan's ambassador to the UN, said The military, aggressively launched by the Rapid Support Militia, supported with weapons by the Emirates, is deliberately and systematically targeting the villages and cities. The UAE ambassador to the UN, Mohammed Ashkavir, said his Sudanese counterpart had made lucrative and false allegations designed to distract him from grave violations that are happening on the ground. You should stop grandstanding at international foray such as this and instead take responsibility for ending the conflict that you started, he added. The UK is currently a penholder at the UN Security Council on Sudan and therefore leads the council activities on the country. In late April, the UAE cancelled a number of meetings with UK ministers over the issue of the war in Sudan. According to a report in the Times, last Sunday, 4 UK ministerial meetings were cancelled by the Emirates, who were reportedly angered by the British not jumping to the UAE's defence after it was accused at the Security Council of aiding the RSF. Last month, the UK's Deputy Prime Minister had made a secret trip to UAE to repair the ties with the Gulf country after months of rising tensions. A source close to talks between the two countries told the Financial Times and that Emirates officials felt like the country had become a punching bag for British politicians attempting to appear tough domestically. Yeah, so the Britain is kind of trying to play a certain role in all this rather than picking a side. They're trying to be a mediator, but at the same time, UAE are like saying, "What are you doing? Why are you not defending us?" While at the same time, there's allegedly evidence and links that ties them to the RSF. So it's difficult. A difficult tightrope is what I will say for the UK. Right now, it'll be interesting, obviously, how the UK responds. Obviously, when a new government comes in place, because we expect that to be next month as well. So that will be interesting to see how they respond, how a Labour government will respond, obviously, to the current situations that are taking place there. But either way, if it is true that the United Arab Emirates are supplying weapons and arms to the RSF, and we have to stress they are allegations. They need to be called out for it if that is the case. If there is sufficient evidence for it, they need to be called out for it because the RSF, there have been numerous sufficient evidence and out there of them committing acts of genocide, of ethnic cleansing in certain parts of certain villages in Sudan that have been completely burnt to the ground and its people completely disappeared. And while there is criticism, of course, of Sudan's army, Sudan's forces, the RSF have been accused of a lot more heinous crimes, and they need to be called out for them as well. But obviously, we don't hear enough about what happens in Sudan, but I will try to keep you guys updated whenever I possibly can on there. We'll have to wait and see what a future Labour government's position will be. I imagine it will probably be the same position. I don't expect it to be different, but only time will tell on that, you guys. So the next one I've got for you guys is from Byline Times. So this is obviously carrying on from a while ago, guys. We talked about the new Russian law that was put in in Georgia. Now another group of people look set to be targeted here. So having outlawed foreign influence, a Georgian dream initiates the Anti-LGBTQ plus law. Tiberius Pride said it is the ultimate battle for our lives, and if we lose, we have to go into exile. So it's already been a battle. They've lost the battle when it comes to outlawing foreign influence. This is extremely scary. Now, I've not, at the time of this recording, seen any other pieces on this. But I would not be surprised, given that the government and its leader and the influence that they have and the alleged connections that it has to Russia, is particularly its leader. I would not be surprised by this whatsoever. There's quite a contrast, unfortunately, to when in Thailand there was Thailand I covered on Geoscopes a few weeks back that same-sex marriages have passed in Thailand for the first time in a South Asian country, which is a great achievement in itself. So while there are strides being made in certain countries coming to LGBTQ plus laws, certain rights are still being taken away in certain countries, and we have to call it out and we have to combat it everywhere we possibly can, so that everyone, anywhere, regardless of who you are, whatever your nationality, whatever the color of your skin, whatever your religious beliefs, whatever your sexual orientation is, everyone should be allowed to be who they want to be. And I think that's the message that I have here. So I condemn this law in the strongest possible terms, because they should just be allowed to choose who they want to love, and the government are telling them no on that, and that is complete opposite of what it is to be of a democratic nation. So in May, the 73-year-old father of a former Tbilisi Pride director, Anna Soskari, was assaulted outside his home. What marked the attack out as different from the waves of state violence that has gripped the Georgian capital in recent months over the passing of the Foreign Agents Law. However, it was carried out not by the police but by masked assailants, but by a neighbour. It's a sign of the hatred and polarisation that the ruling Georgian Dream Party want to create with society, Tamara Jackie, one of the Tbilisi Pride co-current directors, told Byline Times. Members of the LGBT community no longer feel safe. A lot of queer people are thinking of leaving to seek asylum in other countries because staying here has become an act of everyday bravery on their part. This was 2 years ago. During a rally against Pride Week on July the 22nd here. They gathered outside No to LGBT Darkness. They gathered in front of Parliament building. 2 weeks after the attack on Solebiski's father, the Georgian government passed its controversial Russian-style law. Decried by critics as an analogue of the measures used by the Kremlin to crush dissident amid the war in Ukraine, it marks perhaps the most spectacular episode in Georgia's authoritarian slide away from its historic partners in the West, whom officials demonise as a conspiratorial global party of war, hell-bent on dragging the country into ongoing conflict. Widely received as a bare-faced bid to sabotage the overwhelming majority of the Georgian public's hope of one day joining the European Union, the move has brought Georgia's relations with the Euro-Atlantic community to their lowest point since the South Caucasian country's independence from the Soviet Union. Citing efforts to derail Georgia's European future, the United States has already imposed travel bans for a few dozen unidentified government officials, with further sanctions expected in the coming weeks. Yeah, that's the leader of the Georgian Dream Party, billionaire, by the way, as well. Boriska Askavishki. If I mispronounce his name, I apologise. The proposed initiative is a blatant attack on human rights in Georgia and on the rights of LGBTI people in particular, Amnesty International has said. It is distressing to see governments parties pursue such a detrimental initiative in a country that is pursuing membership of the European Union, which has founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom and equality for all. Jamin Taghi of Tbilisi Pride told Byline Times these narratives about the global war party, about LGBT propaganda, about a second front, they're aimed at making regular people believe that the West wants to drag them into a war and spread corrupt values. It's all very punistic rhetoric. What has received significantly less attention in the aftermath of the law passing is a new and wide-ranging bill on family values and protections for minors, initiated by Georgian Dream at the beginning of June. If passed, the measure will build on pre-existing bans on same-sex marriages to outlaw adoptions by queer parents, as well as gender-affirming surgery and treatment, according to the government summary. It would also prohibit would be the inclusion of pseudo-liberal LGBT propaganda in the country's educational system, any gathering aimed at popularising same-sex marriage or intimate relationships, and the publication and broadcast of a series of scenes featuring queer sex and intimacy on television. There can be little denying the parallels between this new bill and the track lately assumed by Moscow. Last November, the Kremlin designated the international LGBTQ public movement in an extremist organisation. Vladimir Putin has previously accused Western countries of the move towards Santarism for their promotion of LGBTQ plus rights. Sadly, this is another indication of the ruling party in Georgia has chosen to move towards regimes that stress the intolerance of a one-party rule. Ian Kelly, a former US ambassador to Georgia, told Byline Times, Friends of Georgia in the West will continue to support those who want to return to a path in the West. But they're going further and further away from it. That's the problem. But the Georgian Dream's Foreign Agents Law prompts hundreds of thousands of people to take to the streets in what is widely considered to be a betrayal of their country's democratic aspirations. Public response to this latest bill has been decliningly more muted. As a deeply culturally conservative society, negative attitude towards the queer community remains prevalent in Georgia. While prejudges have lessened in recent years, a 2022 study by local NGOs, the Women's Institute supporting group, found that roughly 75% of respondents remained opposed to gay marriage, with more than half maintaining that LGBTQ plus people should be legally denied the right to assemble and express themselves. 75. That's terrible. These attitudes have historically prompted shocking displays of violence from the country's far right. Altinfo, a pro-Russian news outlet and associated network of extreme activists, last year led a march against Tbilisi Pride, resulting in the festival being called off at the last minute after 1,000 protesters trashed the site. This came 2 years after the organisation led a similar demonstration against the event, in which a Polish tourist was stabbed repeatedly in the chest at a local caravan was beaten to death. The Georgian Orthodox Church also plays a discreditable role in perpetrating these attitudes, with the Patrician having in 2013 designated 17th of May the International Day Against Homophobia, a family purity day in Georgia. High-ranking clerics have further rallied against the US and EU's assemblies in Tbilisi for poisoning and depriving the country through their historic support for LGBTQ plus activists, while others have actively condemned their violence perpetrated by Alt-Evo, even participating in the rallies themselves. This new anti-LGBT bill appears to represent a concerned effort by Georgian Dream to re-establish legitimacy and increase its appeal among conservative voters ahead of the parliamentary elections in October. It also comes as otherwise fractured political opponents forge a new alliance, sparked by the country's outcry over foreign agents law, though which to challenge the ruling parties at the polls. In the current political climate, due to the level of violence the festival faced last year, Tbilisi Pride will not host any in-person events to mark Pride Month this year, but while recent developments may have stressed the need for caution, Tasmir Juskiska remains under no illusions just how crucial the next few months will be. This is the ultimate battle for our lives and for our future of Georgia. If we lose, we have to go into exile, she said. But until October, we'll be doing everything we can to convince people to vote this homophobic government out. If I didn't believe this was possible, I would have left today. This is they're using these people as a means to blame all their problems, or once again to blame all their problems for things that are happening in their country or things that are going wrong. Now, obviously, I don't know the history of Georgia. But what I do know is that people should be able to choose freely who they want to be and what they want to be. But clearly, the vast majority of people in Georgia don't think that should be right. They think that they shouldn't be allowed to openly express who they are. They should be shunned for who they are. It's a mindset that's been in their country for a long time, and that needs to change. They need to understand that people should be allowed to choose who they want to be. And I think that if the country is very serious about wanting to join the EU in the future, which I think is going further away since the foreign law was passed, if they are very serious about this, then they need to accept people more for who they are. Because I can't accept how the EU ever allowing a country that's against LGBTQ plus people being allowed to be themselves a part of the European Union. I can't really see that, if I'm honest. But yeah, if this bill, so-called anti-bill, passes, yeah, they will no longer be able to be themselves, and they will be forced to leave. And it's sad because it's a consistent battle that LGBTQ plus people are fighting every day, fighting just to be themselves, to be allowed to express who they are, and not be judged by that. But it is very sad, to say the least, you guys. So, guys, just before we go to the look at the conflict in Ukraine and the deep state map, I just want to say, guys, if you want to financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Being a YouTube member gives you access to custom emojis. It also gives you access to community membership post as well. Membership post, and of course, if you're a $2.99 member, it gets you early access to content. If you're a $2.99 member, if you comment on any of my videos as a YouTube member, I always respond to your comments, regardless of what video it is, as a YouTube member. So anyone and everyone who has financially supported me in any way, or even with us just super chats or super thanks, thank you so much. It really does help support me and supports the work that I do here. It is at the moment my only source of income is from this channel. So anyone donating or in any way, shape or form, thank you very, very much. Other ways, if you want to financially support me, is by buying me a coffee. The link is in the description. Or you can join me on Patreon, and I actually get a bigger cut from Patreon if you join me on there. You get access to additional content on there that's exclusively to Patreon as well. So thank you to anyone and everyone who has joined, who has financially supported me in any way, shape or form. It is really, really appreciated. Obviously, if you can't financially support me, if you're struggling yourself, that's fine, no big deal. One of the best ways you can support me non-financially is watching the adverts that come up, or by hitting the like button, sharing across social media, watching my videos in full, and subscribing. All those things are ways that you can non-financially support me if you cannot afford to support me yourself. So thank you very much if you've done that as well. Really appreciate it. So guys, what's been happening in Russia? Let's have a look at what the Kiev Independent has got for us before we look at the deep state map, which it has been a long time since we've looked at. So first and foremost, this is a report from this morning, guys, from the Kiev Independent. Russia has lost over 500,000 troops in Ukraine since February 2024. These are the latest numbers here. Obviously, I always say that this is you take it with a pinch of salt. We don't know for sure, but this is what they've stated. They report this every single day, that Russia has lost 536,840 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces have reported. This number includes 1,180 casualties Russian forces have suffered over the past day. So according to the report, Russia has also lost 8,035 tanks, 15,431 armoured fighting vehicles, 19,362 vehicles and fuel tanks, 14,281 artillery systems, 1,108 multiple rocket launch systems, 863 air defense systems, 359 airplanes, 326 helicopters, 11,413 drones, 28 ships and boats, and 1 submarine. Those are the reported numbers that they have at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see there. This other story here from the Kiev Independent. Denmark to stop training Ukrainian F-16 fighters beyond 2024 here. So Denmark will stop training Ukrainian F-16 pilots by the end of the year as the country transitions to operating F-35 fighter jets, Danish Defence Minister Outlawed said on the 24th of June. We'll be transitioning into flying the F-35, so we will need to spend our energy on that. And so we cannot continue training Ukrainian pilots after 2024, Puskin said at a press conference on Monday. The first Danish F-16s are scheduled to arrive in Ukraine this summer. The country will send 19 F-16 aircrafts to Kiev, as well as equipment for F-16 fighter jets. Kiev also expects to receive the aircraft also from the Netherlands, Belgium and Norway. Denmark will soon finish training about 20 Ukrainian F-16 pilots at the Skylerdund Air Base. Polskan also noted that Ukraine will be able to make its contribution to the training of F-16 pilots in another capacity, although he did not provide details on future training. Efforts are currently ongoing to train Ukrainian F-16 pilots in Romania and the United States. A strong supporter of Ukraine, Denmark has already allocated £64.8 billion of Danish kroner. That's over $9 billion in military aid under its Ukraine fund for period 2023-2028. Denmark is anticipating the arrival of 27 new F-35 fighter jets, the first of which will arrive in Denmark in September 2023. That's $64.8 billion. That's a huge amount of money. Denmark has really, really contributed a lot of support there. They really, sometimes you don't really know how much people are contributing until you actually see them. This one here, interesting one here. So the US is to announce another 150 million military aid package to Ukraine, the AP reports. Interesting. So the US is preparing to announce a military aid package for Ukraine worth about $150 million. The Association Press reported yesterday, citing 2 unnamed American officials. The new package, which is set to be unveiled today, apparently, so you may have it may already be available to read, will include new HIM ARS, that's high mobility artillery rocket systems, rockets, anti-armor weaponry, small arms and grenades, as well as 155mm and 105mm artillery shells, AP reported, citing its sources. On the 1st of June, the US gave Ukraine permission to use American-supplied weapons, including HIM ARS rockets, to strike targets in Russia, located near the border with Kharkov Oblast. And over the past month, Ukraine's armed forces have used US-supplied weapons to strike targets inside Russia. Washington still prohibits Ukraine from using ACAMs and other long-range US-supplied weapons for strikes deeper inside Russia, according to US officials. Earlier on Monday, Russia claimed Ukraine used American-provided weapons on a strike in occupied Crimea on the 23rd of June that allegedly killed 4 people and injured 151. The report could not be independently verified, and Ukraine have not commented on the news at this time. US officials speaking at the Associated Press could not verify whether ATACMSs were included in the next tranche of support for Ukraine. In April, the US passed a long-awaited £61 billion aid package, much of it covered in military aid. The Pentagon announced on April 26 that it was ready to move forward with sending $1 billion worth of weapons to Kiev from US stockpiles. The US subsequently sent 3 other aid packages in the following months, authorizing $400 million of defense aid package, followed by $275 million and a $225 million aid package in early June. Over the winter months, Ukraine suffered critical shortage of artillery shells, a large part due to delays in US military aid. Russia had taken advantage, just taking the city of Avdiivka in February. And they have pushed out since then. I don't know if they're still pushing what the positions are now, but we will have a look shortly there. Just seeing what else the Kiev is reporting here. This one here, massive drone attack in Bolov Oblast damaging buildings, gas lines, a Russian government has claimed. So drone attacks against the Russian city of Belgorod and settlements in the Belgorod Oblast on yesterday, damaging multiple vehicles, buildings and the gas supply line while injuring 4 people, the governor has claimed. Reports of aerial attacks in Bolov Oblast with borders in Ukraine, Sumy, Kharkov and Luhansk Oblast have become a common occurrence in recent months. According to the Gaza, a massive drone attack in Belgorod caused damage to 4 apartment buildings in the cities and shattered windows, and 3 others in the nearby town of Solovitsky. A home, 4 vehicles and a gas line were also damaged in the city, they claimed. A woman from the city of Belgorod was allegedly injured and taken to hospital with a head injury and with a broken arm, while the town of Strochel, another 2 people were injured. Glavkov claimed no details were provided on the alleged full victim. According to Glavkov, an administrative building in the city of Shadorisko caught fire and completely burned down. Elsewhere in the region, another 4 apartment buildings, 8 homes and 2 vehicles were also reportedly damaged. The Kiev Independent could not verify Glasgow's claims, and Ukrainian military has yet to comment on the alleged attack. Russia's defense ministry claimed it intercepted 29 drones out of Belgorod Oblast and 1 drone near the Volodsk Oblast. Kiev does not always claim official responsibility for reported attacks on Russian soil. In some cases, Ukraine has disputed Russian allegations regarding attacks in Belgorod Oblast, where Ukraine has targeted Russia's oil infrastructure and defense industries with increasing attacks throughout winter and spring. And on June the 23rd, Ukraine's military struck a command post of a Russian motorized rifle regiment in Noskoviska in the Belgorod region. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces had also reported there. Just going to do one more here. So a top Trump advisor prepares plans for US to halt military aid to Ukraine unless it agrees to peace talks. This is very concerning. So two top advisors to former US President Donald Trump have proposed a plan that would cease military aid to Ukraine unless it agrees to hold peace negotiations with Russia, veterans reported on June the 25th, citing the advisors. Retired General Keith Kellogg and Fred Fries. Trump, who is the presumed Republican nominee for president, has reportedly suggested that he would end the war within 28 hours if elected, but so far refrained from detailing the specifics of his plan. Kellogg and Fritz, who have previously served on the National Security Council in the Trump administration, said the proposed ceasefire would freeze the front line in their current position, and at the same time, Kellogg said his plans would entail additional warning to Russia that the US would increase its military support to Ukraine if it refused the terms of the ceasefire. Fred said that Trump reacted positively to the plan, but added, "I'm not claiming he agreed with it or agreed with every word of it." Trump's campaign spokesperson Stephen Charles nonetheless emphasized that only statements from Trump or the campaign should be taken as official policy positions. Many of the details of the plans were published in a policy paper released with the Trump-affiliated America First Policy Institute in April. One of the elements of the paper was that Ukraine's NATO assertion would be taken off the table for an extended period in exchange for a comprehensive and variable peace deal with security guarantees. President Volodymyr Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials have pushed back against the notion of such a ceasefire that would cement Russia's battlefield gains. And there will be many such conditions depending on how strong there is at the moment. Therefore, a ceasefire is a trap, Zelensky had said earlier in June. Putin recently explicitly outlined his own ceasefire conditions, which include Ukraine's complete withdrawal from Donetsk, Luhansk, Kursk and Zaporizhzhia Oblast, and abandoning any future NATO ambitions. Such a plan would entail Ukraine ceding significant parts of its territory that it currently controls. The paper by Kellogg and Fritz also repeatedly referenced the unsubstantial theory that NATO expansion had triggered Russia's full-scale invasion, which Trump has also mentioned in an interview earlier in June. They also reiterated another misconstrued argument from Trump, which he claims that President Joe Biden said that Ukraine will go into NATO in the lead up to the full-scale invasion. Trump claimed that it had unnecessarily antagonized Russia. You cannot trust this man. You cannot trust this man. Neither Trump nor Putin. Biden's approach, ignoring Putin's fear of Ukraine, moves closer to the West and joining NATO, they wrote. Kellogg and Fritzker wrote. They acknowledged that Biden and his senior officials never explicitly called for Ukraine to join NATO, but said that they dangled NATO's membership before Ukraine, repeatedly said that his decision was up to Ukraine. Similar statements were also made by officials in the Trump administration, such as the former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's association in January 2020, that we have maintained support for Ukraine's efforts to join NATO. We will never accept anything less than full restoration of Ukraine's control over its sovereign territory, Pompeo added in the same speech. Kellogg served in the Trump administration at the time. Ukrainian drones have struck over 30 Russian oil targets as well. This one here. So Ukraine Special Operation Forces have targeted over 30 Russian oil refineries, terminals and depots. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated during a military meeting. He praised the Special Operations Center, at the Security Center of Ukraine for its efforts and noted that the drones had far reach, which has now covered distance of 1,500 kilometers. Russian drone attacks have hit targets as far as Tuscan and Baskariston. Despite US concerns about rising oil prices and potential Russian retaliation, Zelensky has emphasized Ukraine's need to defend itself and argued that Russian society must adopt to living without key energy resources. The Security Service of Ukraine will continue to implement drone sanctions against the Russian oil refinery complex and reduce the economic potential of the enemy, which provides the aggressor with the resources for waging war against Ukraine, a source told the Kiev Independent. And last one here, guys. Quite a few different ones here. So the US will finance printing of 3 million textbooks for Ukrainian students here. So the United States, through the USAID, will finance the printing of over 3 million textbooks for primary school students in Ukraine. The US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has announced these textbooks produced in Ukraine will be distributed in more than 12,000 schools across the country last year. The Ukraine received its first batch of free textbooks from new Ukrainian school curriculum from the EU. This USAID initiative supports the Ukraine's publishing industry following destruction of the Farta Direct print house Baikal by Russian forces. Farta Direct produced the books for 30 Ukrainian publishing houses and accounts for further books in Ukraine, the company's CEO Taka Grushkin told The Independent. Operating since 1996, the facility employed over 400 people and churned out 450 million books, newspapers and magazines every year before the full-scale invasion. On the eve of the full-scale invasion, 20% of the printed house book was foreign orders for around 200 published houses. Sullivan emphasizes that Russia's attacks on Ukrainian printed houses are an attempt to undermine the education system. The country's literate Metra Color prints 80% of all books published in Ukraine. In recent weeks, the city has come under consistent attack as Russia opens a new offensive just dozens of kilometers north of the city on the 10th of May. So it's good, obviously, they're getting students are still getting some of the things that they need. Obviously, it's very difficult for those living in Ukraine, understandably, right now. But those are some of the reports that are taking place in Kiev right now. So let's have a look at the deep state map, guys. It has been quite a while since we've looked at it. If you want to have a look in your own time, I'll put the link in the description. But this is the current deep state map. The current update, this is the latest update. This was yesterday, the 24th of the 6th at 21:02. This is the latest viewing that we have of the deep state map right now. Let's have a nose and see if I can get there we go. So there we go. It's just updated there just a little bit. So this is the green area. For those who are new to this map, I'll just explain what this is. So the green territory that you're seeing on there, I'll zoom out just to give reference. So the green territory is the counterattack from Ukraine last year. that retook a lot of its old territory. We took back some of its territory from Russia, the counter-offensive, and since then it's been bogged down since then. And obviously, the territory that's the rest of the territory is obviously Russian occupied, obviously, and territory there. And then obviously you've got all the dots of where they're trying to make engagements and whatnot here. So obviously there's been a lot of engagement here. So it looks like Belrog here, yeah, Belrog on blast. We've just been reporting here, so we can see here on the outskirts here. This is actually, if you actually zoom out, this is actually that's within the Russian territory there. So Ukraine have been hitting within the territory there, just from a geography point of view there, and they're trying to make some ground here. So they been able to do so? So if I click this here, you can see here it takes you back a couple of days to show if there's been any movement, any progress here. So looking at this, might have been a tiny little bit there, a little bit, but realistically nothing's really moved here. There's not been much movement here on the border. They're trying to open up a new front there, and they're not been able to do so. Here obviously they've not really made much movement here from the last time I looked at this, and I don't expect much movement to be made here either. The thing is that there's not been much movement at all. The thing is that they're quite bogged down, the Ukrainian armed forces, in this and on these lines here. So they're pretty much bogged down. So they're not losing ground at all, really, because they're quite strong armed here. Before we go to this next bit, I want to show here. I'm pretty sure there has been some pushing here. If we just pull back a little bit, no, not really too much movement. Okay, not much movement at all. Go back a couple more days. There has been a slight gains, but yeah, pretty much throughout this entire month, Chaskyvar has been at the front of an assault there by Russia to try and take that town, but they've not been able to do so. As I keep clicking the days in, you can see there's not been much movement here. Again, this is like Ukraine have been able to keep their forces bogged down in these territories here. They're able to hold the lines here. Now, here is where Russia have been making most of their gains. Now, we have not seen this for quite a while. So this is the city of Ivica that they gave up in order to preserve a lot of their soldiers. And this is where they've been pushing out a lot over the past couple of months here. So let's go back a couple of days and see just how much movement. You can see here clearly, as we go back further and further days, you can clearly see that Russia have been able to make gains here. Yes, they are not the biggest gains, as some people will argue in the comments below, and well, that's fine, but it is still territory that's going back. So this is going all the way back to the end of May, and you can see here that they have pushed out more and more this month in this area. Because Ukraine have not been able to hold really here, so they've not been able to kind of stop these movements here. So they've not been able to bog down here. So this is where Russia have made the most gains in it of anything here in this conflict. So at the time, still at this moment, they've not been able to stop this Ukraine. And obviously, like I've said before, obviously it does take time for the weapons and supplies and whatnots and equipment to get in. But still, hopefully at some point this will stop and Ukraine will be able to hold off on this. Let's see, down here, are we expecting much movement down here? Little bit of movement down, little bit there. Nothing really too much to read on down here in these conflicts here. Have we seen any movements along the coast here? Just going to scroll out just a little bit here to see if there's been any movement here. This is on from the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. Have a look here to see if there's been any real movement on the south. No, and again, this is because Ukraine... Okay, there's been a little bit on the right there near Dolorovsk, there on the right-hand side of the screen, in the top right-hand corner, you've seen there's been a little bit of movement, but nothing too much. But the rest of the territory here, despite there have been a few skirmish engagements here, Ukraine have been able to hold mostly the defensive lines here, which is pretty solid here. And there's not going to be any change along here, guys, because of the Dymo River here, which is kind of essentially stopping Russia crossing over here. So the Dymo River here. But one thing that does happen over here, guys, here in Kursk, is that Russia does launch missiles and whatnot into this area, which obviously we get reports of from the Kiev Independent there. But that is the current look on the ground, guys. This is according to the deep state map, obviously. So again, the link is in the description if you guys want to have a look there. But what do I make of some of the current conflict so far? So I just need, apart from in Donetsk, everywhere else seems to be holding pretty firm. Obviously, they are getting some targets and attacks within. They are getting some targets and attacks there. And if you actually go back, there, I believe, yeah, there's a lot of targets that they may have been looking to target here. A lot of airfields and whatnot. I do believe a lot of the red dots may be potential targets, because they are still targeting, Ukraine are still targeting territory within Russia to try and obviously they've got permission to use certain weapons and ammunitions within inside Russia that are from the US as well, which is obviously upsetting Putin, but too bad, is what I will say, obviously. There doesn't appear to be too much, nothing really. I'm looking at Belarus there, and I'm just thinking, well, Belarus has kind of still not really done anything there from their point of view. At the moment, there are tiny gains still being made by Russia, but I expect Ukraine at some point will finally be able to hold those skirmishes and hold those skirmishes at some point. It's a case of when. And obviously there's been a lot of questions about the number of soldiers as well. That Ukraine have been a question of whether they've been getting enough soldiers in as well. We also know that Russia have been getting drone supplies, obviously from Iran. That's been from Iran, as well as getting weapons and supplies that from North Korea, as well as obviously Putin was in North Korea as well. So I think that's also important to highlight as well. But yeah, I will obviously, with the short videos, I'll try to keep you guys updated as much as I possibly can with the conflict in Ukraine. How are you guys feeling about the conflict in Ukraine? Pingu hates it. Pingu wants it to end. He wants people to stop suffering, and I agree. People need to stop suffering. He's especially angry about what's happening with the Gaza children. Cash Dummy says, Cash Dummy says Putin is a scumbag. It's not a very nice thing to say about people, but I can understand how you feel about that, Cash Dummy, if I'm honest. And Pingu says, where's my hat? He's not really too keen on talking about this, because we know how Pingu feels about this. He's definitely keeps asking. He wants that communist hat, and I keep telling him it's coming at some point. So that's enough from the gang behind me. So guys, we have reached the end of World Newsround. So what do you guys make of some of the topics and discussions that we covered today? We've gone over an hour and 10 minutes long. So let me know what you guys thought. Talking about Julian Assange and being freed, being allowed to return home to Australia. Finally, the 20,000 children that have reportedly plus have been who have suffered in Gaza. What's happening what are you guys' thoughts on what's happening with North and South Korea? The tension that's continually building up there. The UK and its role within Sudan's war, trying not to upset the UAE. And the anti-LGBTQ law that may be coming down the line from the Georgian Dream Party to the Georgian country. What's happening with that, and some of the stories that we covered here on the Ukraine conflict. What are you guys about thoughts on all of these and more? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. But just before you guys head out, if you can already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.